All right. Thanks, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Kimmel's Irish Pub. Time for another talk about movies. If you've seen the last one, we did our top five each movies of 2024. Now we're going to do our bottom five. What were the worst movies so far this year in 2024? Of course, I got Dominick with me again to do these because I think it's awesome to get a lot of different perspectives. As much of a movie fan I am as he is, so it's exciting to have him with us here again. And if you didn't see the first one, that's okay. This will be entertaining. And if you like this stuff, let us know. We'll keep doing it. So, Dominic, anything you want to say before we jump into our bottom five?
As always, I'm excited to be here. I mean, Jeff does a lot of the production of putting this together with me, a lot of legwork, so I appreciate that. I think we have a lot of fun doing it. I mean, I know I do. I'm pretty sure Jeff Kimmel does too. Hopefully, you have some fun watching it. It's always a good one here, in my humble opinion. So we're doing okay.
All right. Sounds good. So let's jump into it. We'll get right to it. What you all came here for was to find out what are our bottom five movies of 2024. So this was tough and very similar. If you saw the one before, everything tied again. All of these movies, the bottom one was the lowest rated one, and then the rest of them were all kind of tied. So I had to pick at it and look at it a little bit more in depth because there's no, point value. It's either five or a four. It's not 5.4, whatever. Who cares about all that? Here we go. Number five, worst film that I saw in 2024. And I think this was the worst because expectations not being met. This movie is called In a Violent Nature. So In a Violent Nature has a really cool premise, right? So it's like a first person view of a murderer, a killer, like a Jason Voorhees or a Freddy Krueger or something like that. And they come out and they just start going after. Well, the first person view wasn't 100% accurate, and I get it. It's going to be hard to do that. I think they escaped from it here and there to try and tell the story a little bit clearer. I can excuse that. It was the whole 70-year-old crime of this person. The whole, I guess, urban legend of what led this person to do what they wanted to do and how they came back to get into murdering more people. I just couldn't buy into it. I wanted, I don't know, not more realistic, of course, but a little bit more believable, I guess. And it just didn't work for me. I was really excited for me. Now I will watch the second one. They are evidently making a second version of it, and I will watch it. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't hit for me, at least in the first half of this year, and made the bottom five for me.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that they make some improvements to the sequel. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. You might see that movie creep up on my list at some point, so we'll see. But to start at the bottom of my list, number five would be Tarot. Tarot, it's starring a bunch of people. I'm not gonna name them all, but Jacob Barton was probably the most known. He looks kind of Norasian, kind of slightly heavyset actor from Spider-Man. Although he lost a little weight, so it's not so heavyset anymore. But whatever have you. And a couple of directors, no big known directors. It was like any other generic, like really generic starter horror movie, but it was like kind of like not that entertaining. I mean, with the tarot cards, at one point they met someone who had the old deck of the tarot cards. I think it was an older lady, and they, met her and she told them a story, and they were, the tarot cards. I don't even remember. I only saw it once. Like, oh, how are you gonna pass away? But through the tarot cards will tell you how. And don't give someone your old deck, or don't use their deck. And it just even the ending was kind of dumb. Like I said, with the actor from Spider-Man kind of showed up with this little gag at the end. Did he pass away? Oh no, they fooled you a little bit. But it was like a starter horror movie, but like not so great. I mean, I managed to watch it. It was kind of okay. I saw it in the movie theater, like whatever. I didn't like walk out, but I wouldn't say Tarot. I mean, if you really want, you can watch it on streaming late at night, and maybe you'll get a kick out of it if you like that actor. And there are, the girls in it were always attractive and such. But a great movie, it was not.
Couldn't agree more. Oh, I'll talk a little bit more about that movie in a little bit.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's in my top five too. So I'll be brief on it, but I couldn't agree more. So, all right. So I'm going to go to my number four real quick. Like I said, we'll talk about Tarot in a little bit, but number four for me, The Underdogs. Again, I think this was something with expectations not met. This is the one with Snoop Dogg, who is like, I don't know, comes out of jail to like coach little kids in football, or I think that's what it was, football or something like that. And so you think you have this redemption story where they're going to come out and they're going to make all this stuff and it's going to be magical and emotional and stuff like that. And it just didn't work. You know what I mean? It was just like, I get it. He was playing a character that's not well behaved. Obviously, he did something bad, but he never like turns it around, like to be like well behaved and to be, like I think about my kid going to be under that coach. I don't think that was great. And then, I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, the way it ended and the progression of the character just didn't nail it for me. I was hoping for more, hoping for a better ending, and it just didn't hit. And it was ranked really low for me. And when I looked at everything, I was like, that's one that I think I should make people aware of to skip the underdogs.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that, and you did seem a little bit disappointed by that. I remember your review, and you seemed a little disappointed by that. It seemed like you were expecting something really solid, and you just weren't that into it. So I do remember that review. I did not see that movie, and frankly, I probably won't because you're saying it wasn't so great, and never even really heard of it till you talked about it. But it seems like it wasn't so good.
No.
And I mean, I know that you're so ginger with your reviews. I don't think I've ever seen you turn around. I don't think a day will ever come when you turn around to the camera and say like, "This movie stinks." I mean, you're always so nice. Even like the worst movie, you find something good about. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But my number four, I think that you reviewed it too. Imaginary, starring DeWanda Wise, Tom Payne, and Burns. The director was Jeff Waldlow. It was another one of those movies where I think you said this, and I couldn't agree more. The world building was pretty good. There were the bones to maybe build a world behind it, but the story didn't really make sense. There was so many holes in the plot. I only saw it once. It was kind of slow moving with the teddy bear. Some of the acting was a little bit stilted. I mean, it was a little bit long. It wasn't, I almost fell asleep in the movie theater. I'm not trying to be funny or sarcastic. I'm just saying it really was a bore fest or a snooze fest. And it's sad because there was something there. It just wasn't fully realized. I mean, if it was fully realized, it could have been almost like it was kind of a different genre. But if it was fully realized and more skilled hands with better acting, it could have been like a Beetlejuice type of meat movie. But it was far from that. And I'm basically wishing for a different movie. Better actors, better script, better cinematography, better world building. I mean, now I'm just saying that the movie just wasn't so great. I mean, it just wasn't there. But there was something there, but it was just not fully realized. I think you saw it too, and I think you said something similar.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. Didn't make my five, but it was close, right? It was right on the outside looking in. I agree with everything that you said. And here's a plug for Dominic and I. If anybody out there like you're not sure about your movies, send them to us. We'll give you feedback before you release them, tell you how to do it a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, and
Sure.
I know, and that's part of the reason it's hard for me to say bad things about movies. I mean, people are a lot more talented than I am, you know what I mean? And I'm just watching them and, I'm the armchair quarterback or the movie chair quarterback, and just watching and I know how much work goes into it and they do a great job and they love what they produce. So it's hard for me to say that was terrible. So it's like, yeah, it just didn't work for me, but, and that's a great example. And I think there are things that they could change that would make it a lot better. So good call out there, Imaginary.
Sure.
All right, number three. I'm hoping this one's not on your list. I thought you were going to go there. I think you and I talked about it previously. But The Strangers, Chapter One, right? The Strangers was a phenomenal movie. The original one was just fantastic. So I had really high expectations for this, and it just felt like The Strangers again. Like when we kind of talked about other movies, this is just we were talking about a different movie earlier before we started recording, but this is just another version of The Strangers, just different people in it. Now, Madeline Pratesh, I like her. I thought she's awesome. She's from Riverdale. And so I was like, oh, really excited to see her now move into film, and was really hoping for a lot here. It sets up nice, but then it's the same movie. It's the same thing you're going to see if you watch the original Strangers, which is based on a true story, and was just so creepy when it came out, and it was just like, man, you're having all the lights on in your house and you're locking every door, but now it's just like Well, that's what they did in the first one. It's the same thing. It's just a different setting. So another one where it just didn't meet my expectations. I wanted more. Where are the strangers from? Like, what's the background? Give me some origin story. I don't know. Make it different. And it just wasn't. It was just different actors. It was just supposed to be chaptered one, but okay. Well, what was the original movie? Is that chapter four? It's like, I don't know, like the prequels from Star Wars. It just didn't hit. You know, I was hoping to like it, and it didn't land.
It didn't hit, and I'll give you a, I'm kind of a similar story. That was actually, that almost made number five on my list, but there was another movie that pushed up to number one, and it kind of got pushed off my list. And I agree with basically everything that you're saying. Believe me, I'm on board with you. But I'll give it a little bit of wiggle room in the fact that, I mean, this is kind of a cheat, but it was essentially an incomplete movie. I mean, you paid to see a movie that wasn't completed. The Strangers Chapter One, it kind of ended on a clip. It just kind of ended from what I recall. And it was like, I mean, the movie's a three-act structure, act one, act two, act three. It was kind of just act one of a movie, but it was a full movie. So it was essentially an incomplete movie.
Yeah.
So I give it the benefit of the doubt in a little bit of a roundabout way that, let's say that Strangers Chapter Two and Chapter Three comes out, and you could watch all three in a row, and it would be a solid movie, even though it's really three movies. Then maybe it would be a win. But as it stands now, you kind of bamboozled the audience a little bit.
Great point. It's great. Yeah, I mean, I'll watch chapter two and chapter three for sure. But yeah, maybe that'll fix it. But yeah, that's a good point. They didn't finish it.
Yeah. So I think I have to go now. My number three movie might be a little controversial because I know it's kind of like a lot of people love it and a lot of people don't like it. And it came out very recently. It's definitely still out now as this video is being recorded. Long Legs, starring Moore, Blair Underwood, and Nick Cage. And the director is Perkins. Long Legs. I mean, I just couldn't get into it. To me, it was just way too artsy. To me, it was just, way too art house. To me, I just, I just wasn't into it, my friend. I just wasn't into it. I know some people have said this is an amazing movie. This is a great movie. And I heard it got, these amazing reviews of a thriller, a horror, a psychological thriller, a new big bad is born through Long Legs. And I just couldn't get into it. I'm going to give it another chance when it comes to streaming at home. I'll maybe have my phone shut off. Maybe I'll be in a better frame of mind. But to me, it was just way too art house. It was way too artsy. I just couldn't get into it. Maybe I'll give it another chance at home because I know a lot of people loved it. And I'm just the type of guy to love a horror movie like that. But as it stands, I'm just not there.
And that's disappointing to hear. I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, I only watch them when they come out on streaming. So I'm excited to see it. But now I'm going to lower my expectations. So I appreciate the insight. But you and I both love Nicolas Cage, right? I mean,
Yeah, Cage.
the first review we did together was a Nicolas Cage movie. So that
Sure.
that lights me up. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I don't know how it's going to be. Is it going to be crazy Nicolas Cage or, so I'm excited. And Monica Monroe, I love her too. I'll watch her in anything. She's got range. She has become like a screen queen, they say. But you know what I mean? But she also has, she's in other movies that she's just not part of a horror thing, and I think they're miscategorizing her because I do think she's got some range and she's a pretty good actress. So I was really excited for those two people to be a part of this. Blair Underwood, okay. I like him as well, but not as excited as the other two. And then it sounds like the way they're pumping it up, like I'm all excited. So now maybe lower my expectations a little bit going into that one. I was looking forward to it. Good call though. Yeah, and I know you and I had talked about that one before, so I'm excited to see it and hopefully, if lower expectations, maybe they'll be met. All right. So
Sure.
my number two, we've already talked about it, so I won't belabor it, but Tarot was my number two worst film. I mean, I don't know if you remember or you've seen Truth or Dare. It's all those same kind of movies, Truth or Dare, where it's like, oh, they play Truth or Dare, and then somebody dies, or Happy Birthday, or Happy Death Day to Me, all those kinds of things, and in Final Destination, right? So if you've seen Final Destination, which is like the original of all this, like they start picking people off one by one because they all got off the plane. Well, here, hey, you all did the tarot cards and you did it in this order, and now you're getting picked off one by one. So it just, I come back to the peacemaker, the beekeeper, the baker. It's the same, not as much as those, but it's the same. It's the same formula. It's the same recipe that they use. Tarot, they're just like, okay, we're going to use tarot cards versus Truth or Dare. You know what I mean? Or hide and seek, or you know what I mean? And it's the same kind of thing. And yeah, it didn't hit for me either. I was excited to see the guy from Spider-Man. I liked him. I love him in Spider-Man. Didn't love him in this. I didn't like him. I didn't like the character that he portrayed, and was really disappointed because I really liked him in Spider-Man. That's why I watched it. So yeah, I agree. I know I said I wasn't going to belabor it, but that was number two for me, Tarek.
And I just really quickly, I mean, it was like all those other ones, but like it used the same recipe, but like expired ingredients, like worse ingredients and like reheated. It just wasn't the same. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, the original Final Destination was good, and some of those were okay that you named, but that one was not great. Two people put it on their bottom list. It's got to tell you something.
Yeah, right.
And speaking of movies that two people put on their bottom list, it's sad for me to say this because it was a good concept, but the execution was lousy. In a Violent Nature, in a Violent Nature, like you said, we were both there. And your critiques are similar to my critiques. I mean, watching someone through the eyes of the murderer walk around the forest for like 20 minutes straight, just slowly walking and going down tunnels, and Johnny, and they told the whole story about through the campfire. I mean, that one kill was kind, if you're a horror guy, that one kill was kind of good on the mountaintop, but that's about it. It was a boring movie. It was a slow fast. It was a good concept, but the execution was just boring, slow, dry. In a Violent Nature, I'm really hoping maybe In a Violent Nature too, they'll pick up on the critiques and do it more well. But from what I understand, the movie made a lot of money, and I think it got kind of mixed reviews. Some people thought it was great, but a lot of people feel how we felt. I mean, credit to them for trying to do something new with the horror genre. But again, you know, it's undeniable. The execution was blah, meh, not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Obviously, we agree on that one. Good. A lot of good points. Poor execution. I remember the scene on the hill there, or on the cliff there. That, you're right. That was pretty cool. But other than that, it really fell short. So I'm glad we agree there in our top five. All
Yeah.
right, I got number one now. This one was a standalone. There was no doubt, no ties, no nothing. And you know, and I love the actress in this one. I again, an actress who has a lot of range. I think a lot of people, some actresses they look at and they're pretty to look at, right? And not that she's not, but I've seen this girl in those types of films where she's there for eye candy, but then in other films where she's just phenomenal. This film she was really good in. Sydney Sweeney. She was really great in this film. Don't get me wrong. And this shows like it wasn't a film to show her off, but to show off her acting ability. So I applaud that. But the concept of this movie and what they decided to do in it, and I knew everything that they were doing. In the final scene was just horrendous, and the movie's called Immaculate. So if you haven't seen it, don't go see it. It's not worth watching. I don't think, you know, it's interesting at first, but it puts a lot of you know, and I think it's, you know, they're taking a stance probably against Catholic religion, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. Everybody can have their opinion. I don't care, but what they take it just a little bit too far in my mind, and kind of ruined it for me. So I love Sydney Sweeney. She did a great job with the movie. So and they got what they wanted from it. I think the writers, the directors, they got, this is what they wanted. It just not what I wanted. So. Yeah, that was probably the number one worst movie I saw so far this year.
That was Immaculate where she was a nun, right?
Yes. Yep.
I don't, you know, I mean, we like to have our own opinions here. I'm not, you know, we're not here to just agree with each other on everything, although we do seem to agree. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you in the fact that I actually did like that one. I know that if you're a faith-based person, it's probably not the greatest one to see. And I'm, you know, I can say this here, I'm a person of faith, but if you're a faith-based person, that's not, you know, the best movie to see. But, you know, yes, I mean, it's no denying Sweeney's attractive, but that's not the point. I like the horror element of it. I like the ending. I just kind of, you know, it's kind of a, you know, shocker type of ending. I've seen a lot of those exorcism type of movies, but I actually thought that one was pretty good. Honestly, I would watch it again. I liked it, but that doesn't mean that just because we don't agree on a movie, I don't like you, Jeff.
Right, right.
But I
So
did like it.
that's there you go, subscribers. You pick who you're gonna listen to and who you're gonna, what are you gonna watch it Immaculate or you're not? You know what I mean?
It's
Let
up
us
to
know
you.
in the comments.
Sure. So that's the fun of this. I mean, we seem to agree on a lot of them, but you could respectfully disagree with with the person that you're working with. So that's good. That's why we work
Yeah,
well together.
absolutely.
So my number one movie, I thought, worst movie, I thought was slow moving. It was boring. It's called The Watches, the Kona Fanning and someone named Campbell, and the director was M. Night Shyamalan daughter, Ishan Shyamalan. Now, I can't bag on it too much because it was a directorial debut. Of course, she got in because the father's famous, and I'm sure the father taught her a trick or two. But I just, where they were in, a house where you could see through, a glass house, and I just found it very boring. After 20 minutes, I found it very hard to pay attention. I didn't really care for it. As a matter of fact, just today I watched another movie in which she starred in that her father directed, and she was a star in called Trap. I mean, not going to review that here, but I mean, I just couldn't get into it. The watches with being in the glass house and you could see through, and the animals and such, traveling through Ireland late at night. I couldn't get into it. I mean, I don't usually get on my phone, but I was in the movie theater. It was all over my phone. Now, mind you, I was the only one in the entire theater. It was in the morning that I saw it. I just couldn't get into it. The watches. I don't know. It was a snooze fest for me. I think you saw it. I don't remember what you thought of it, but I did not like it.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that because I know when I was preparing for this, the Watchers showed up, and I couldn't remember which list they showed up on. Like they were in a tie. I had them ranked as a seven. They were tied for one of the top five. So I remember the concept of it. I don't know what I liked about it. But I did like it. So there's another one we disagree on. Do I think I didn't make my top five? Or I would have said that in the previous interview or previous review, but for some reason I had it ranked high, and I seem to enjoy it. I thought the concept was really cool. I liked the fact that they're trapped there, and I don't know. There was a lot that I liked that I have to go back and rewatch my review. But how about that? We both disagree with our number ones.
But I mean, some we agree, a lot we seem to agree on. I mean, especially In a Violent Nature. We both didn't like
Yeah.
that. And Tarot, we didn't like. Imaginary, I don't think it was on your list, but I remember you weren't too crazy about there in your review. We agreed on a lot of them. We didn't agree on a couple of them, and that's what makes this fun. I mean, I think we have a lot of similar viewpoints, but we have a couple of viewpoints that aren't exactly similar, and that's what makes this fun. There are a lot of movies that came out over the last 6 months. I mean, I think that Hollywood is trying their best and doing good. That like we said, the best movies, the worst movies. I respect the fact that you don't really bag on or put down the movie too much because, like you said, you tried to write a script. You're trying to write a script, and you know how hard it is to actually produce a movie and get it off the ground and do the best that you can. And then if everyone says, "Hey, this movie is just trash," it's not that easy. Try making one and see how hard it is.
Right. Yep. Nope. I couldn't agree more. I was gonna even like end with that. Like I know because I've had I'm not like bragging, but like I've had directors or producers or even actors comment on some of my reviews. I know I don't have that many followers, and that's okay, but people do sometimes, especially the smaller films. They see, what other people say about them, and I really respect what everybody does. I know these were our top five, bottom five films, but they were good enough to get us to watch, right? Spend the money to go see them. And maybe they just didn't work for us, and they might have worked for somebody else. Like you said, In a Violent Nature is a great example of mixed reviews. There's people who love it. And we're both going to see the second one. You know what I mean? So while it
Yeah.
made the bottom five, great job for everybody in any of our rankings. You guys are very talented writers, producers, directors, actors. Just some things just don't hit our palate. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. So we appreciate everybody making the movies that they do and allowing us to talk about them. And I'll throw out one more plug. If you want Dominic and I to see the film before you release it, let us know. We'll give you some notes, and you can take them and do whatever you want with it. But hopefully this was helpful. You got a lot more movies out there. I'd love to hear what everybody thought of our lists. We had some similarities, but we also had some things that we disagree about. So put your comments in. Let me know what you think. Did we miss any of your bottom five? Love to hear from you. But Dominic, anything to say before we sign off?
No, I mean, it's always a pleasure working with you, Jeff. I mean, I always appreciate the invite, and we kind of get together with each other and decide it's time to jump in and do this again. I think the viewers like it. I hope the viewers like it. It's a good opportunity. Make some comments if you would be so kind. We enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it too.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you. If you watched to the end, awesome. and let us know what you think. All right, thanks.